Now, hundreds of antique toilets, taps, basins and baths from the private museum at Thomas Crapper Co have gone up for sale. The whole collection can be bought for around £300,000 if you're feeling, well, flush. We sent our reporter Tim Muffet to take a look.
It's a collection like no other, a large hoard of rare antique loos, wash basins and showers amassed over the last 40 years. Certainly not a flash in the pan. From the ornate to the grand, it's all here. And it's owned by Simon Kirby.
An awful lot of the items are incredibly rare. In fact, you'll just never see them again. This sort of thing simply doesn't come out of demolition sites anymore.
He started out buying and selling items for ornate bathrooms, and he once owned the famous Thomas Crapper Company, swelling the collection. These days he's so knowledgeable he's a bathroomware advisor to the royal family, which brings us to this particular bath made for a royal train in 1915.
It was made for George V and Queen Mary, but it was also therefore used by George VI and Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and quite possibly by the late Queen when she was a princess.
Many of the items were produced by Twyfords in Stoke-on-Trent. He even has the desk used by the chairman, and he has a large collection of taps and other items made in Birmingham and the Black Country. And then there's this, one of the earliest flushers from 1890.
This would be fully panelled in mahogany or oak, or beautifully polished. And when you've finished using it, you pull this handle up, and as you see, the bottom of the loo drops away, and so water rushes in, washes the pan, and as you replace the handle, the bottom of the loo closes up again and it refills with water.
Now these Victorian urinals are perfect for those men who may sprinkle when they tinkle, because there's a target for them to aim at, and that avoids splashback, wet shoes, and of course it makes life easier for the cleaner. And we must mention there are also some ceramic potties, including one complete with a particular heinous dictator carefully positioned for maximum effect.
It's great fun in that it's got a dome-shaped bottom with Mr. Hitler's face painted on it. And the dome shape is to allow space for a clockwork motor that when you lift it played God Save the King.
Simon wants to sell the collection as a job lot for around £300,000, but failing that it may have to be broken up and sold bit by bit. Kevin Reid, BBC News, Atherstone-on-Stour in Warwickshire.
And next, you might be in with a chance of potentially, if it's your thing, owning an interesting piece of history.
Have you chosen a favourite yet?
Trying not to look at it.
From the selection around here, the wooden toilet seats over here. You'll get the idea. It's antique toilets, taps, basins from a private museum at Thomas Crapper Co, all up for sale.
Yeah, the whole collection can be bought for around £300,000 if you've got a bit of spare cash. Tim Muffet is there for us this morning. Good morning, Tim. Anything in particular you've got your sights set on?
Well, so many to choose from. This is not a bog standard report. A unique collection of toilets, wash basins, baths, sinks. They all belong to the former owner of Thomas Crapper and Company. Now, Thomas Crapper, there he is, was a Victorian lavatory legend. He did so much to champion these devices, which became a part of so many people's homes. But they're all up for auction because the man who currently owns them, Simon Kirby, who's just here, is hoping to sell them off and do just that. Simon, first of all, explain to us how you became so interested in toilets in the first place.
Well, I was a strange little boy who collected old things, and my mother gave me a copy of Lucinda Lambton's book, Temples of Convenience, which was full of pictures of loos and basins covered in decoration, when I was 11 years of age. And so maybe that's where it started.
Okay, so this collection is unique. It hasn't really been shown in its entirety before, has it? I mean, you've got some hundreds of pieces of others downstairs as well. Tell us about some of the highlights you got. And they've got some great names, haven't they, some of these toilets?
Oh, they have, yes. The Deluge, the Centaur, the Progress, Flood, Torrent, all that sort of thing. Although I particularly love this one. What on earth they were thinking of when they christened that one the Clencher.
Wow, the mind boggles. And what about this one? This is, do you think, is the most expensive item in your collection?
Not the most expensive item, but the most expensive loo pan It's a Twyford's deluge with Venetian decoration, and all of that flow blue and solid gold lustre has been applied by hand. Fabulous. About 1890 and in perfect condition.
And we saw this one earlier, but we've got to say it again.
Yes, the Hitler loo, Hitler potty, I mean. And what I love about this is the bowl is shaped like that at the bottom because a wind-up motor went underneath, and when you picked up the potty, it played God Save the King.
Goodness, makes you feel proud. And this one around here, you believe, is the first sort of toilet as we know.
Loo. Yeah, basically the first modern loo. Before that, most loos were like this, a bowl and a separate S-bend or trap. And this was the first one made like that, where the trap's still there, it's inside, but it's been covered with this pedestal, and that's like a modern loo, isn't it?
Now, Thomas Crapper, he was not the inventor of the flushing toilet, as some people think.
No.
But why was he so important?
Well, he invented the bathroom showroom for a start. Before that, you had to choose your bathroom fittings from a few black and white engravings and a couple of salesman's samples, you know, tiny loos and basins. But he was also a great sanitarian. He promoted the idea of having a loo, a wash basin and a bath inside the house with running water attached.
Wow, very influential figure. Now let's take a spin round here. We're going to have a look in this room around here. Simon, the cameraman, is going to spin around, and we're going to make our way through as well, because in here there's some really, really fascinating items. Now this one here, now we think of recyclable toilets. I think of them as a fairly modern day thing, but no, I would be wrong to think that.
That's right. This is the world's first eco-loo, invented in 1861 by a vicar, the Reverend Henry Mole. He believed that the water closet was an abomination in God's sight. It wasted God's fresh water, it polluted God's rivers and streams, and of course it wasted the nutrients, God's nutrients in the stools themselves. So the idea was this flushes earth instead of water. You put dry earth in the hopper at the top there. There's a bucket below. When you've finished your business, you pull the handle and a few handfuls of soil is thrown over over what you've left in there. The idea is the soil takes away the smell and the bacteria in the soil starts to break it all down, and then Dad buckets and chucks it in the garden.
Very briefly, why is this bath so important and significant?
Apparently the first bath on a train anywhere in the world. It was installed on the royal train for King George V and Queen Mary in 1915, and you see the taps are silver plated. That's because everything in the carriage, from the King's bed, the King's brass bedstead, to the light switches was silver plated, so this was done to match.
Now you want to sell all this lot together, you're looking for about £300,000, but
yes,
that's not all about the bottom line, is it?
No, not at all. I promised years ago that I would, if I ever sold it, I would offer it as a collection because a lot of people believe it should be kept together as a museum. Okay. But if I can't find anybody, I'm afraid I've got to break it up. OK,
well, best of luck with that. A collection like no other, but won't be together for much longer. So if you're interested, well, he's the man to get in touch with.
Tim, thank you. And yeah, good work on the puns there. I think.
And the raised eyebrows,
yes,
simultaneous.
That added to it, didn't it?
We did ask the question earlier on, maybe ill-advisedly.
You asked the question. I have nothing to do with it.
Favourite toilets? You've sent some pictures. Lorraine has sent this one of a public loo in Australia. Wow. She asked, how about this for a throne?
Brenda took this one while travelling through Letterkenny in County Donegal and was impressed by the hand wash basins. Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Derek says he spotted this urinal in a garden centre near Aberdeen. 2005,
I have
if you want the detail.
That is beautiful. Caroline told us she loves a disco loo.
Doctor Who-inspired toilet sent in by Jan.
Based on the TARDIS, of course, and found at a cafe in Bristol.
You get the idea.